Hello and welcome to this, our seventh lesson within the cycle of 10 that make up the Sage CRM Fundamentals course. I'm going to start the actual lesson in 2 minutes. We're waiting for everyone to join us and for the clock to come round to the bottom of the hour when it will be 12:30. I'm going to go silent just for a little bit, so I'm just going to mute my mic. Hello and welcome to this seventh lesson within the cycle of 10 lessons that make up the Sage CRM Fundamentals course. We're looking today at working with emails and documents, and you can see that it's building on the information that we've been sharing throughout the lessons so far within the course. We're going to today be looking specifically at the idea of sending emails using the internal email client and how we can also manage documents within Sage CRM. It is going to refer to other lessons within the cycle, both within the cycle of 10 lessons that we've been covering during our Sage CRM Fundamentals course, but it will also look at things like the setup and administration courses, which are already recorded and available on the Sage Support and Training YouTube channel. That's a useful reminder that you can always go and access these lessons within the YouTube channel, and it's our commitment as Sage to make sure that the information about Sage CRM is freely available to you to support your learning. So let's have a look at Sage CRM in action and understand about emailing within the product. Now let's assume that I've just logged on to Sage CRM. In fact, I've logged on to the default demo system as Susan May, and she's a sales manager working in the US. And here you can see that I'm moving across using the recent menu, and I've just come across to look at a company called Gatecom Inc. Now here I can see that I've got a number of different email addresses displayed on the screen. I can see that there's one associated with the company itself. In fact, there's a couple underneath the middle panel where it says phone and email, but there is also the default contact at the bottom of the screen where we've got Simon Yaltoy's details there and a business email recorded on the screen. The idea is that you should be able to click on any of these links and start the process of sending an email. But Sage CRM can be configured in a number of ways. You can configure Sage CRM to actually just support the idea that if we zoom in on this and have a look at the email address, that it's just a standard mail to link, which would open up there the idea of if it was used, it would open up the idea of simply an email client. So this is the experience that you would have, whether that was Outlook or whether it was another email client being used by the business. Now, that's not what we're doing here. We're going to make the assumption, actually, if we look at an email address, that it's calling the internal email client. And you can see here that this has a call to an internal CRM action. And that allows for the behavior that we're going to be looking at in today's lesson. The whole question about configuring, though, the email to support different ways of working, that's covered inside the application administration course, which is available on the Sage Support and Training YouTube channel. So you can go and look at the differences of setting up and how you can configure email inside Sage CRM. But let's assume that we're working with the idea of the internal email client. So I've zoomed back out. Here I am looking at the company again, and I may want to start that process of looking at sending an email. But to do that, I'm going to switch over to look now at some opportunities that are available within the system. I want to be able to send some correspondence within the context of an opportunity. And you can see I'm currently looking at an opportunity for a 120 user expense system. I've explained that I've logged on as Susan May, and you can see on this screen that I've got the ability to click a hyperlink and call up the email client. Now, I can actually call, as I said, the email in a couple of ways, not just by clicking the email link, but I can also click the new idea of a new email elsewhere. But before I do that, let's have a look at something else. And this is where emails and documents start to intersect. Now, I've clicked within the context of this opportunity. I've clicked to see the Documents tab, and you can see that I've already got an example contract that has been uploaded. So this might be a document associated with the relationship that I'm building with the company in the context of the sales process. So the Communications tab has the job of showing any existing communications within inside this opportunity. So you can see that there's been a phone call earlier on in the conversation with the customer about this opportunity, and the communication then shows any existing pending communications, any historic. It depends on the filtering that we're using. Now, I also have a new email button there, so I could have clicked on either the email address that's in this particular header of the screen, or I can click the email button. So if I choose the new choose the new menu and I choose the new email, I could actually do that way. Now, I could click the hyperlink as well, and that's what I've done here. So a number of different ways of getting into the internal email client. The easiest is always to click the email address, and then you start the process. Now, we'll look at the moment at some other things, but here you can see that I've got an email signature configured. We'll look where that's done in a moment. But if I scroll down to the bottom of the screen, you can see here that this is where I can choose to attach files. Now, I can choose to load a file that's associated with the current entity in context. For example, I showed you just a moment ago that there's one that's already uploaded in the context of the opportunity, or I could upload one that is from my own machine. So it's either one that exists within the system already, or one that's specific for this particular email. So I can choose to do exactly what I want to do when it comes to also recording this as a communication. So notice that I've searched for example, and then I've clicked on the magnifying glass, and this returns records that are either from the context of the opportunity. I'm in the context of the opportunity, so it's returning in the correct context, or it's returning from the global library, which is all the files that anyone might be able to see. Now, note, you will only ever see records that you're allowed to see, because the library entity is also governed by security territories and security policies. So there may be some things that you cannot see because of your rights, or you can see because you are in the correct team that is given permission to look at certain documents and include them in emails. Now, here you can see I've picked the file, and I need to click to upload the attachment, and you can see that that's sent now towards that it's attached to this email, and I've returned to the top of the screen. Now, I'm ready to send this email, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I can use a template. Now you notice that there is a field here called template, and if I select a template from there, I'm calling this new inquiry. Now here you can see that I've chosen a particular template. Now that template is demonstrating the fact that our emails that we can send from the system can actually also be configured to include attachments, either in the form of a basic file attachment or an inline graphic. Now, there is a specific lesson within the application administration course that looks at the idea of the creation of email templates. So I'm not going to show you how to do that in this particular lesson because there's a dedicated lesson for that elsewhere. Instead, you can see that I have got the particular inline graphic associated with it, and that's what's going to be recorded within Sage CRM. So I'm ready to be able to send this across. And if I want to send this, if I look across, I can type in additional words if I want to. So I can put in any additional text that I might want, any of the other material that I want to change. If I want to put in blank anyone in the BCC field or into the CC field, I can do that. But once I've clicked send, it's sent as an email. That will go out using the settings that the system administrator has configured within the email configuration screens. And again, there is a lesson about that on the Sage Support and Training YouTube channel. Here, the communication has successfully sent. We didn't get an error, but we can then look underneath the communications tab, and I can see underneath the communications list that they're filtered. I've got myself, this is just the pending, but if I look to change the filter to show all records, you can see that that the email listed is email out is listed at the top of the communications, and it also indicates, and you can see there with the little paperclip icon, that it's also indicating that it has attachments. Okay, now I've changed the filter to look at just the emails that are stored within the system, and so I can now go and have a look at user preferences, and this is all about changing the preferences of my system around things like the signature. And here you can see I've landed on the preferences screen, and on the right hand side you can see where I've got a button that allows me to edit the email signature. So if I click to edit, you can see that I can decide what my signature consists of. I've got merge fields that I can use in here, and you can see that you can select the different merge fields in order to drop down into the HTML that is making up the signature. You can see as well that I've also checked the use signature for replies and forwards. I'll be showing you that just in a moment. So if I save this and I now return back to the communications list, you can see that I can look at the email again. If I click into the email that I've sent, the email is stored in Sage CRM. So this is my copy of the email being used through the internal client. I can access this at any time, and I could now, if imagine it was a returned email actually into me where I filed an email, I could click reply, or I could send out a forward of the email. So I could click reply or forward. Any of these buttons are available to me here. So if I click this, and in fact here you can see I've started a reply. The reason for doing this is I wanted to show you how that the signature is added into the response as well. And you can see that the information is provided there. Now, if I look at what we've seen, is that we've got the body of the text has been automatically populated. We can see the way in which the subject line has been changed. So this is how we are either going to be forwarding or replying to the email. So all of the information is automatically done, and it will then, if I then go on and send the email, it would store that as I would expect. Now that's then, if you like, that experience of sending emails and managing emails within Sage CRM. We can come on now and think about our document experience that we need to consider as well. Now, we've started looking at documents, but here I've logged on as a different user. I've logged on here as somebody who is interested in or focused not on sales but on support. So this is a user called Kylie Ward, and I can navigate across to a customer record. And this happens to be a customer record in a company called 3G Homes, and this is Clement Stickings. Again, this is all demo data, and I can start the process of an internal email client. Now, we know how this works, but here I might want to use instead something called a email alias. Now, an email alias is something that has to be set up by the system administrator, but it is something that as a user we can choose whether or not we want to be able to use it. So this is very useful when you don't want to necessarily reply or send things out just as you as an individual, but rather you want to be able to send it out as an alias. So support at my company, or sales team at my company, for example. So it creates it from a generic address rather than an individual address. So here you can see that I'm also setting not only who it's come from, but also whether I can set it as a reply to address. And then once I've done that, I can use the template in the same way that I've used templates before. Once I've sent an email, it will appear in the list of completed actions. It will be available to us to be able to see again. And this idea of sending the alias is something that is configured through the use of preferences again. So where we saw the email signature, we can now see that if I just switch the screen into edit mode, that the default email address is able to be selected in the bottom row. So just here where I can choose which email address that I want to use. And once selected, I can save that, and then that would be the default preference that I'm using. So what we've seen about that process of sending emails is that Sage CRM has this inbuilt email client, which allows you to send emails directly. These sent emails are logged into the communication tab of the related entity. You'd have got an error if there was any problem with the sending. So person, company, case, etc., all the context in which you can send an email out into, and the communication would be linked at that point. We can attach files when sending emails, either because they're part of the template or because they're deliberately added by the composer of the email. Files are stored in the related communication record. We can provide a full interaction history of the communications and the documents that have been sent through communications, and we can choose to use pre-created email templates which ensure consistent messaging and save time for a user, and those user preferences govern then the control over the signature and the alias that the user is using. So continuing on, to look at specifically documents and a little bit more about the way in which we can use documents in this. Documents can get into Sage CRM in a number of different ways. So we can have documents enter manually through the Documents tab, and we'll be showing you that in a moment. We can attach emails and store them in the context of communication records. We can upload them directly into a shared library for shared use. We can upload templates using mail merge and Word templates, and we can add using third-party integrations and custom workflows. I'm going to be concentrating just on the manual mechanism at the moment. Here we can see that I'm logged on again into the system. I'm looking at the company record, looking at Gatecom, and you can see that I've got an existing record associated with the documents. This was uploaded originally in the context of the opportunity, but it is visible at the level of the parental records of the company and person as well. And you can see that from this page, I can start a mail merge, or I can upload from this document as well. And they would also allow mechanisms to do that. Now, if I click the upload, and I can add file, rather, and I can now browse to upload a particular file. So if I choose one of those, choosing a Word document, this is on the allowed list. There is a set of file types that are allowed. So here I'm choosing which one of the files that is allowed. I'm choosing to upload a document. I can add in some more documents, details to describe this document. I notice that I'm also providing it to create a communication, and so that's been uploaded into the system. So we've got the details of the file that is uploaded into documents, and if I see in the communications tab, this same file is listed, but the other file that was on the documents tab is not listed, as it was added into the system without creating a matching communication record as well. Okay, so we can either upload documents associated with an entity with a communication or without a communication as well. And if I click back to look at the summary screen for the company, I can go and start the process of a mail merge. And so if I go here and start that process of a mail merge, I'm going to mail merge, I think, a PDF document, or actually, I think I'm working with a Word document. I might have chosen there. So if I immediately are presented here with a set of templates, I can look at the creation of templates. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see that there is a discussion on how you create templates inside Sage CRM, but here I'm using one of those. I'm using the Panoply customer letter template, the HTML template, and clicking that starts the process. The template is loaded in. I'm able to review the template, and if necessary, edit it before the merge. I might want to change it in any way that I want to, and then I can start to add additional fields into the template. They always come from the underlying view associated with the template. I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to click merge and continue. So here the mail merge is taking place on the server. It's entirely done within a library that Sage CRM has. You don't need anything specific on the server. This is something that is just run, and the document is created. You can see that once the merge completes, we have the option to download the file for further editing if we want to. If we view and edit the file, we downloaded to the local machine, but depending on your browser is set up, you might need to look at the download location to access the file. Here you can see that I've actually gone ahead and opened the merged document. So again, I can still make changes to the file before re-uploading to Sage CRM. So a user selects the file that they've chosen, and then they can upload it to continue and I can also choose to create a communication at this point. So a communication will be added along with the document as well. So I need to complete some details, which I do. I add a subject and a note into the details box and then save. And then that goes into the newly created communication in the list under the company. And you can see that it has the files that have attachments, which would allow me to go directly back into that document if I wanted it. So the newly merged document also appears under the Documents tab in the context in which the merge was performed. So we have now a building collection of documents. And what we've seen is that we can manually upload documents via the entity record. We can see that documents can be added into the system by attaching them to emails and storing them via the communication records. What we haven't looked at in this lesson, but is covered in another lesson, is the upload directly into the library for shared use. We've also seen how we can generate a document by use of a mail merge, and we've and another thing that we've not looked at but is possible to do, which is to add documents through third-party integrations and custom workflows. But these are all the different ways in which a document can get added into Sage CRM as well. And the two big divisions that we've seen for our experience of Sage CRM is that one, we've got library documents that are not tied to a specific communication. That's typically used when they're reference materials. They're going to be used perhaps in multiple communications, but not actually wanting to store them as only associated with a particular communication. They mean that they lack some user context because they're just there. They will know who created them, but it won't know why necessarily unless you put the description into the document. And those reference documents are then only available via the Documents tab. You also then have documents which are linked via communication records, and so that's where things have been attached to emails or records of phone calls, etc. You provide you with a full interaction history. So not only have you got when you were discussing something, but you've got the what you were discussing as well. And the communications retain that audit trail of communication as well. It provides complete proof of what discussions have taken place. And this all provides us then with access to that document either through the communications list or just through the Documents tab. So as a reminder, this has been recorded. This will be made available up on the Sage Support and Training YouTube channel, and I will be moving on next through the cycle of lessons where we'll be looking at in the next lesson tomorrow on customer care features. So let's see if anyone has got any questions. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It looks like there's no more questions. I'm going to say thank you all. Thank you very much for coming along and joining me at this lunchtime session. I look forward to seeing you at our next lesson. Until then, thank you and goodbye.